I will call this meeting to order. It's the regular Housing and Redevelopment Authority meeting, Monday, June 18th, and ask for the roll call.
Commission Member Rubenstein.
Present.
Commission Member Goettel.
Here.
Commission Member Gepner.
Here.
Commission Member Quam.
Here.
Chair Sandal.
Present. Next item is HRA approval of agenda.
I move the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, Mr. Devich. What did I miss?
Approval of the minutes in the HRA City Council.
Oh, I skipped right over number 1. I'm sorry. We have before us also the approval of minutes of special HRA City Council Planning Commission work session of May 21st, 2012, and the regular HRA meeting of May 21st, 2012.
Madam Chair, I move the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, Mr. Devich, number 3.
Thank you, Chair Sandal, members of the HRA. Item number 3 is consideration of a request for subordination of a Housing and Redevelopment Authority deferred loan at 6620 Oakland Avenue. And I'm going to turn this item over to Karen Barton, Community Development Assistant Director, to take the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The homeowners at 6620 Oakland Avenue have requested a subordination of a $19,050 deferred loan they received from the Housing and Development Authority on September 28, 2009. At 92%, the combined loan-to-value ratio exceeds the HRA subordination and satisfaction policy limit of 80% and was therefore denied by staff. The homeowners are appealing the denial and have asked that their request be brought to the HRA for consideration tonight. The homeowners qualify for and are pursuing a refinance through the Federal Home Affordable Refinance Program, also known as HARP. HARP is a streamlined refinance program that allows property owners who are impacted by decreased property values and whom have a FHA-insured mortgage the opportunity to refinance their mortgage to secure better terms and help stabilize the housing markets. The homeowners would like to refinance their primary mortgage into a new mortgage of $145,500, which would include the total balance of the first mortgage and closing costs. The interest rate would be reduced from 5.75% to 3.75%, resulting in a savings of $94 per month for the homeowners. The term of the loan would also be reduced from 30 to 20 years. The HRA's deferred loan is currently behind the primary mortgage with a current balance of $139,895 and 2 Energy Advantage loans from the Center for Energy and the Environment with current balances on those loans of $8,273 and $1,500 respectively. Based on the value of $188,740 assigned by the HARP guidelines, HARP does not require a formal appraisal. The combined loan-to-value ratio is at 92%. Although the refinance reduces the interest rate and monthly payments, the combined loan-to-value ratio is above the HRA's subordination and satisfaction policy limit of 80%. Although the superior debt to the HRA's lien is increasing, it is still within the 50% increase permitted under the subordination and satisfaction policy guidelines. The request meets all other requirements of the guidelines, including that the property taxes are current, no equity is being removed, closing costs are 3%, payment terms are within the financial means of the homeowners, and no other subordinations have been granted in the past 5 years. I believe the homeowners are also in the audience here tonight. Right here, okay. So if you have questions of me or of the homeowners, be happy to answer those for you.
Anyone want to hear from the homeowners, or? I guess if we need you, we'll call on you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I speak?
I
I just want to say that this is, again, one of these HARP refinancing programs, and it keeps stability in our neighborhoods by keeping people in their homes, and people are still suffering from the economy and everything, and I've been a real fan of the HARP program to help people stay in their homes, and so I would support this.
Would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the request for subordination of a Housing and Redevelopment Authority deferred loan at 6620 Oakland Avenue.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would just say that even though there is a very minor increase in the loan ahead of us, overall, the impact seems to be that it makes us more secure. And in addition, I am also very happy to see that people are taking advantage of the HARP loan programs, which allow people to get out from under higher interest rates, even if they don't have as much equity. So at the risk of encouraging other people to come here for subordination requests with a HARP loan, I would say I'm very supportive.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, and we'll go forward with it. Item number 4, Mr. Davich.
Again, thank you, Chair Sandal, members of the HRA. Item 4 is very similar, consideration of a request for subordination of an HRA transformation home loan at 1300 73rd Street West. And again, I'm going to ask Karen Barton to take this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Scott and Sang He Lindeberg requested a subordination agreement for an $8,970 transformation home loan that was approved back in 2000. The Lindebergs are proposing to refinance their first mortgage and remove equity to pay for college costs for their children. Cashing out equity to pay for anything other than home improvements is not permitted under the Housing and Redevelopment Authority's subordination policy, and therefore the subordination request was denied by staff. The Lindebergs are appealing the denial and have asked that their request be brought to the HRA for consideration this evening. The HRA's transformation home loan is currently in second position behind the Lindebergs' primary mortgage, which has a remaining balance of $4,590. The Lindebergs are proposing to refinance the primary mortgage to a 10-year fixed interest rate mortgage of $120,000. And in that transaction, pay off the existing loan balance, pay $78,041 to the Department of Education for student loans, pay closing costs, and use the approximately remaining $35,000 in remaining cash to pay for future college expenses. The Lindebergs' request does not meet 2 of the HRA's subordination and satisfaction policy evaluation criteria. First, the Lindebergs' proposal will increase the secured primary mortgage by 2,600%. From $4,590 to $120,000. And second, they are removing cash equity for purposes other than home improvements. The Lindebergs meet all of the other evaluation criteria, and their proposal would retain 44% equity in the property. I also believe the Lindebergs are here this evening in the audience, right over there. And I'd be happy to answer questions, and I believe that they had requested to address the HRA as well.
Okay, if you'd like to come forward, go ahead. Yes, if you would sign in and then,
I'm going to be brief. My wife has a couple of comments she'd like to make too, if that's okay. Thank you. In 2000, as you heard, we eagerly accepted the $8,900 from Richfield HRA with the understanding that if we lived in our home for 30 years, then it would be forgiven. Had we paid back the loan at $100 per month interest-free, we would have had it paid off over 4 years ago. Now, if HRA denies our request, we'll have to roll it into our new mortgage and pay interest on it. When the only change to the original agreement is that the HRA will be back in its original position for 10 years until the refinance is paid up. Our bank is already subordinated, so our home equity line of credit is intact and at present is at zero balance. This will take care of any home improvements we may need in the near future. My wife and I pay property tax on a commercial building as well as our home in Richfield. Our business has been strong for 21 years and counting. You know us. We work 6 days a week, seldom take even short vacations. Our daughter Gina, who's with us, is going to be a sophomore at the University of St. Thomas, works hard, earns her award money, granted by the university. Her sister Anna graduated this year. She's working in her field of biology, using her degree at the Miami Sea Aquarium, and independent. In my mind, I can't avoid the thinking of the possibility that, the HRA sees us as a cash cow. I hope that's not the case. If it is, then there's nothing I can say will change anybody's mind. But seeing as we're all neighbors, we spent $125 to come and talk to you tonight. I graduated from Richfield High School in 1969. Both my kids graduated from Richfield. My wife was raised in Korea and has made Richfield and embraced Richfield as her home. We want to be here till we die, and all we're asking is HRA supports us. Thank you.
And when your wife is done, did you sign in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. I will.
thank you.
Now, you all heard my name is Sang-hee Lindenberg. I'm Scott's wife. And year of 2000, with $8,900 for home improvement project, and that was overwhelming then. It's really nice thing you did, because of that we have a beautiful kitchen, which we enjoying it every day. And thank you. It's a little late, but bottom of my heart, thank you for that. Now, I have a letter from city, property tax informations. Estate market value of a house is $360,000. We try to refinancing a house, $120,000. They will, now, most money will go towards our two daughters' college tuitions. But I want to hear this one more time. Pay tuition, this college these days, 7.9% of interest we have to pay. Now, if we refinancing the house, we try to find the way without bothering you. Home equity loans, line of credit, all over 5% of interest. Best way we could find paid off our debt, our children's debt, with $120,000 was refinancing the house. And I personally, this is how dumb I am. I never thought about HRA when I started refinancing. Now, mortgage company call us and, hey, HRA reject that. Subordination. What is that word? I couldn't even know what that word means. And say no, we can't even refinancing our house. Because of the $9,000 we had in back 2000, year of 2000. Is it Richfield actually HRA support us or try to trick us? I was just dumbfounded. Now, and that money is not just for tuition. I'm 54 years old. I don't have health insurance. I had to drop it 5 years ago because too expensive. I had Blue Cross Blue Shields all these years. I couldn't afford it. Hey, self-employed these days, tough. We work hard, paid off income tax, property tax. I don't have a health insurance. I am 54 years old. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't get out of it. Tax, I have to pay it. I have no choice. I didn't know what regulation for HRA. Now, because of low interest, we're going to refinancing. Will be monthly payment going to down? So I will have a chance to back on my health insurance plan. That's my plan. And paid off debt for college. Please, you help us in 2002. I ask you again, support us, please. We're not asking the money. No, thank you. No more. But please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Sandal. Yes. I just want to add, I want to make sure that the Lindenbergs understand that we're not preventing them from getting the mortgage. We're simply saying under the policy of the HRA, for them to do what they want to do, they'd simply have to pay off the $8,970 that they got from the HRA back in 2002, and they have had the use of that money from 2002 to now without any interest at all. And we're not asking for any interest. Simply, the answer would be they can do all the things that they said they want to do, that they want to refinance, and the idea would be that if they paid back the $8,970 that they got from us in 2002, they could go ahead and do what they want to do. So we're not, this wouldn't be preventing them from refinancing. I just want to make sure that's clear into people who are watching this on the outside.
Thank you. Madam Chair?
Yes, go
I have a question, and this is maybe more for staff than it is for anyone else. So where have we else made similar exceptions, or have we in the past?
We haven't made similar exceptions for things other than home improvements. We typically don't subordinate to, lines of credit or college expenses or, trips or paying off credit cards or new cars, anything like that.
Doris?
I've read this item on our agenda very clearly and read it several times. For 13 years, I was a fundraiser at the University of Minnesota, and I served on many scholarship committees and loan committees, and talked to many students and parents who had come to the committee asking for scholarships, loans, grants, etc. And there were times when we said no because of policies and procedures that we knew were going to keep the monies that we had available for the purposes for which they were intended. We had a responsibility to our donors to stick to the rules that were written for those scholarships and grants and loans. This situation here reminded me very much of those 13 years where I sat on those committees. And many times we said, yes, congratulations, you're going to get your grant or your loan. And the very seldom times that we did say, no, you do not fit the criteria.
Okay. Does anyone want to make a motion at this point?
I'd move that we deny the request.
I'll second.
And go ahead, did you want to speak to
I'd
that?
be happy to alliterate on that. You know, this is a good program. This is one that Richfield has and provides homeowners in Richfield the opportunity to make improvements in their houses that maintains the housing stock. And it's in that manner that we want to continue it and make it possible for people to have this money and use these funds. These folks had a 12-year interest-free loan. A couple years ago, when I was formerly on the HRA, we came up with rules and criteria for what to do in situations like this. And you know, there was a set of circumstances that helps staff determine whether somebody would qualify to be exempt. And this doesn't meet two of those and it's on that basis that they're appearing here tonight before the HRA and it's unfortunate that here's a good program that had an advantage and a benefit to the family, and you know, hopefully they'll accept if others think like I do that this is not something that we can just go forth on.
Can I add one other thing? The thing that occurred to me most, or secondly, when I was reading through this was exactly stated by Mr. Devich. This does not prevent you from getting your refinance with your mortgage lender. Pay us off, and this is not an issue. I do not know your financial situation by which you can, you know, have that kind of money ready to pay us back, but if you put it back into, you know, fold it into your mortgage there, boom, the money is available, as Mr. Devich said. So it's unfortunate that you don't fit the criteria for getting your loan subordinated here, but it doesn't prevent you from getting your mortgage. It just raises your amount of mortgage by the amount of the loan that you have to repay.
Did you have a comment, Mr.?
Yes, I'd just like to say that the question Commissioner Goettel asked was very relevant. I think if we were to subordinate this, we would have no basis for enforcing our rules because this one really doesn't comply in a couple different ways, and it creates an extraordinarily larger amount of primary debt ahead of the loan as well. So I just feel that much as we like to support people in education and our citizens, we need to abide by the regulations that we set up to cover all of the people that take these loans.
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to say that I do know Scott and saying and they have been great Richfield supporters, and they have a business that's been here forever. The policy is really clear. It's really hard to be able to go back, and I do agree. That's why I asked the question, had we done this before? And the answer was no, and I just don't know that we can just go changing writing policy and then we would have people coming in here to do this every single time. But I would ask that if staff could work with Scott and saying and show them how that, at least describe to them how they might still go ahead and move to get that mortgage that they need. I know what school costs are, and they are tremendous burdens, and especially on small businesses who have struggled through the downturn of the economy. We want to keep those businesses here. We appreciate them. So whatever we can do otherwise, I would appreciate.
Okay. Thank you.
Go
ahead.
I didn't do the numbers, but in taking equity out of your home to pay off the other loans and looking at the difference in the two interest rates, I think even by paying us back so we can use the money for some other Richfield resident, that you come out ahead, so that you're going to win either way.
Okay, and I guess I would concur that the policy was set just so that we would have some guidelines for people who did make these requests. The first one we considered was very close. It was only slightly different than the guidelines, and this one is dramatically different than what we had set up, and so I feel I would need to deny it as well. And if there's no further discussion, I will call the question. All in favor of denying the request, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And thank you for coming in any case. Item number 5, Mr. Devich.
Thank you, Chair Sandal, members of the HRA. Item number 5 is a consideration of a motion directing staff to schedule a public hearing to consider the sale of 301 77th Street West, that's the vacant Candlewood parcel, and consent to the land use application for Lumetri Collision Incorporated. And I'm going to ask John Stark to make this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. As the Executive Director said, this is related to 301 West 77th Street, which is often referred to as the vacant Candlewood parcel or the Candlewood outlot. The HRA purchased that entire Candlewood site in 1992. At that time, it was Lampert Lumber. In 1998, the land was platted into 2 parcels, and Candlewood purchased the southernmost of the 2, which is approximately 2/3 of the site, if not more. The remaining parcel was retained by the HRA and has been vacant since 1992. Richfield Bloomington Honda had previously expressed an interest in the site for the construction of a showroom for electric vehicles and possibly a coffee shop as well. Since that time, however, Richfield Bloomington Honda has met with Lumetri Collision, which is located immediately to the west of Richfield Bloomington Honda, to discuss Honda's purchase of the Lumetri site to allow for expansion and updating of the Honda facility. This would allow Richfield Bloomington Honda to meet Honda Corporation dealership requirements and to remain competitive in the automotive market in the Twin Cities. Lumetri has indicated a willingness to sell their property to Richfield Bloomington Honda on the condition that they would be able to purchase the HRA property for the development of a new facility. This item came to the HRA in a work session on November 21st, at which time Rick Lumetri presented a proposal to purchase the vacant Candlewood lot, showed a very preliminary site plan at that time. At that work session, Richfield Bloomington Honda stated that they would be willing to opt out of their proposal for the site to allow for the sale to Lumetri's. Members of the HRA, of course, a work session is not a voting meeting, but we did receive feedback from the HRA that they were interested in at least seeing this go forward and learning more about it. Currently, the comprehensive plan guides this site for high-density residential development, and the property is zoned mixed-use community. While the mixed-use community district conditionally permits auto body repair shops, the use is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan designation. So a change to either regional commercial or regional commercial office as the comp plan designation would be necessary. The necessary land use approvals require public hearings before the Planning Commission and the final approval of the City Council. Calling for the public hearing on the sale of the HRA property wouldn't commit the HRA to approving any purchase agreement. It just allows the discussion to move forward. If the call for public hearing is approved, the next steps would be, and this is on the second page of the staff report, A, for the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing on the comprehensive plan amendment and planned unit development. That's currently scheduled for June 25th, next Monday. B, for the City Council to hold a first reading of the rezoning, which is scheduled for next Tuesday, June 26th. C, for the City Council to consider the comp plan amendment and the rezoning. That's scheduled for July 10th. And then finally, the holding of a public hearing on the sale of the property by the HRA on July 16th. This is a bit of a compressed schedule. Lumetri has been pursuing this with staff since January, December or January, and there have been a number of holdups related to some specifics on the site with easements and different things that, through no fault of Lumetri's, has caused this to drag out a little bit longer than any of us thought was going to be the case. As a result, they're behind their schedule, and Richfield Bloomington Honda, who is eager to move forward, is a little bit behind their schedule. I'm not telling you that to put any pressure on the HRA, just to let you know what the the time sensitivity is. Again, there are two items that we're asking you to consider tonight with this that could be in one motion. One is to call for the public hearing on the sale of the property at next month's meeting, and secondly, to consent to allowing Lumetri Collision to have the property rezoned, conditioned upon their ultimate purchase of the property. And I can tell you that representatives of Lumetri, including Rick Lumetri, are here in the audience. So with that, I would take any questions you might have.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move this so that we can talk about it. Going to direct staff to schedule a public hearing to consider the sale of 301 77th Street West, the vacant Candlewood parcel, and consent to the application for a comprehensive plan amendment, conditional use permit, and rezoning by Lumetri's Collision, Inc.
And feeling the pressure, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we have it on the table and we can talk about it. Comments? Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I wanted to know, I believe we've talked to the Candlewood folks, correct? And they know about the switch and the different things, and they are...
Yes. We have talked to both the Candlewood people locally, the site manager, and we've had some discussions with their parent company in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that the local folks, anyway, didn't see an auto collision center as their preferred use there. They'd always wanted to see a restaurant on the site. The HRA has been marketing that on and off over the years for a restaurant, and staff had come to the conclusion that that was a difficult parcel to sell for a restaurant because of access and visibility issues.
Yes, yeah.
So
parking, other things I recall. Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, I see this as just another step to see what's happening, and you know, we're not making a commitment. We're just saying that this seems like something that's worthwhile learning more about, and I think that's the basis of the motion, and that's why I'm supporting it.
I'm supporting this because these are two long-established Richfield commercial neighbors, and we owe them certainly the courtesy to move this forward.
Okay, any other comments, questions? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I don't know if the folks from Lumetri's want to say anything or just move it along.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Item number 6, Mr. Devich.
Chair Sandal and members of the HRA, item number 6 is consideration of a proposed sale of land to Richfield Properties 1 Limited Partnership doing business as Ron Clark Construction and Design and Connolly Development. What we're looking here is a public hearing with respect to the sale. I'm going to take this item myself. As for background, on April 30th, Richfield Properties 1, the developer, submitted an application for rezoning amendment, industrial to planned multifamily residential, planned unit development or a PUD approval, and preliminary plat approval for its proposed development, which is a 7-unit complex that includes 52 apartments and 18 townhomes, which will be located between 76th and 77th, between Pleasant and Pillsbury Avenues. The application replaced previous proposal that was withdrawn by the developer on April 3rd, and the revised development proposal contemplates that Ron Clark would purchase 3 city parcels designated as C1, C2, C3 on the attached map. And I was hoping, John, you could, we could go through that so we could kind of outline to people sitting at home so we can understand where these are all at. C3 is the original piece of property for which the developer has an option. C2 is kind of a flag parcel that sits adjacent to C3, and C1 is a little square of a piece of property that's kind of on the corner of the mortuary site. C1 and C2 were 2 pieces of property as I'll mention in a second, that the City Council considered on June 12th. What we're looking at here is the former Gleason mortuary parcel, which is outlined in blue, is currently owned by the HRA, and that's the question that's before us this evening. At the June 12, 2012 meeting, the City Council rejected the developer's offer to purchase C1 and C2. As a result, the developer lacks the necessary property to complete the project as it is currently proposed. The sale of the HRA parcel to the developer would create a patchwork of public and private ownership on the block and would inhibit rather than promote the HRA's goal for the entire block to redevelop. Staff recommends that the HRA reject the proposed sale for the reason that the developer lacks control of the adjacent properties necessary for the project as proposed. HRA members may also have additional reasons for rejecting the proposed sale, which may include that the proposed project does not meet the HRA's original vision of the development of the parcel. The density on the HRA portion of that property is only 11 units per acre. The development does not encompass the entire block. The proposed project is inconsistent with some of the guidelines of the Corridor Housing Initiative, including exceeding 2-3 stories and exceeding low to medium density housing. The HRA wishes to study the appropriate mix of affordable and market rate housing for projects that receive public funding. There may be a desire to wait until the HRA property value appreciates, and a desire to wait until other housing models, like for sale or different income mix, more townhomes, etc., are more feasible. As a matter of policy, a public hearing is required prior to the HRA agreeing to sell the property, and that's why we're here with a proposal before you to conduct a public hearing. The HRA must decide whether it's in the best interests of the public to sell the property under the terms that are offered. The purchase offer does not have an expiration date, but may be withdrawn at any time prior to its acceptance. From a financial perspective, the proposed purchase agreement provides for a purchase price of $183,912, and Mr. Clark has submitted earnest money in the amount of $1,000 with the purchase agreement. That property was purchased by the HRA in 2001 for $630,000 plus relocation and legal fees. The value then appears to have been based on an appraisal identifying the highest and best use of the property as it existed at that time, which was a mortuary with 4 apartment units. An appraisal for the property dated June 8, 2011 estimates the market value at approximately $185,500. The appraisal assumes medium-high density, 1224 units per acre. Housing at the highest and best use of the land, such as a density, would equate to 9 to 17 dwelling units on the site, which is greater than the 8 units being proposed. An independent review appraisal was completed on this site on March 15, 2012, which confirmed the conclusion of that 2011 appraisal. And so with that, I turn it back over to the HRA.
Okay, thank you.
Again, with the staff recommendation that after the public hearing that the HRA reject the purchase agreement.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so anyone who wishes to speak can come forward. Please sign your name in. And we will have a timer of 3 minutes per person.
Gislyn Ball, 7627 Harriet. I just wanted to say that the city has already declined to sell Ron Clark Construction in the middle of the 2 other pieces of property, C1, C2. And if you vote to sell him Gleason's mortuary, this isn't about 70 families anymore. This is, and I don't think it's ever really been. I think it's been about 1 million MHFA credits. If you sell him this property, this isn't a vote for the 70 families. This isn't a vote for the project. All you'll be doing is voting for lengthening a legal battle. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And please give your name and address when you speak. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. Again, my name is Jim Suseg and I represent Ron Clark. I was hoping to catch this group before the public hearing was open, because the request we're making of this body tonight, given the actions of the City Council last week, is to table items 6, 7, and 8. And let me be more clear about that.
Okay, please let Mr. Suseg speak.
And we're not asking that because we would like those items tabled per se. We like those tabled because of the City Council's rejection of the sale of parcels C1 and C2 as identified by Mr. Stark. And let me be more specific. On Friday of last week, we sent a letter to the members of this body as well as to the members of the City Council requesting reconsideration of that decision. We have asked that that be placed on at the next City Council meeting, which is next Tuesday, the 26th, June 26th. And if you follow the logic, if the City Council reconsiders its decision and decides to move forward with the sale, and the rest of the public process through the Planning Commission and through this body continues as it was before, then we would have the public hearing that we would envision tonight on the sale of the HRA parcel. If the City Council decides, no, we're going to stay as is, that will put Ron Clark in the position of determining whether it's going to move forward with the development of the C3 parcel, which they have under option, in a reduced number of units, reduced scale development. And so that's one option. And then the other option would be something that would perhaps combine parcel C3 and the HRA parcel into a larger development. And so what we're saying here tonight is we could spend the next couple hours having a public hearing about the project as it's configured, but since we don't know if that's going to be the ultimate configuration, that doesn't seem to be a good use of anyone's time this evening. So we as the applicant are asking that it be tabled for those reasons, and that it be placed on at the next public hearing, or the next HRA meeting, which would be, I assume, sometime in July, after we know what the city's council is going to do and after we have a chance to react to that.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Holly Hansen, 7609 Harriet Avenue, Richfield. Did you forget something, sir? I believe the City Council has already voted on their intention for the sale of parcels 2 and 3, or 1 and 2. For parcels 1 and 2, they've already decided. I don't believe that there's any need to drag this out. I do believe that the City Council has already made their decision. Mr. Clark does not need to pick up the option if he doesn't want to. We don't need this. We don't want it. And a few months back, Kendra was here and she talked about good faith and all kinds of things regarding development. The good faith occurred when initially the first project was plan was proposed. It was for, I believe, rental or townhomes in about 2009, 2010. Last spring, when financing was thin, Mr. Clark and his associates came up with the Section 42 financing option. And once you go for Section 42 financing, you change the entire complexion of the complex, of the proposal. And when you change the entire complexion of the project or proposal, any good faith, anything that you were putting forth based on, this is what I've shown you so far, this is what I'm doing forward. When you change something that dramatically, you've changed the entire project. There is no good faith anymore as it stood initially. And with that, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Hi, my name is Wendy Holland. I live at 7245 17th Avenue South. That's one block off of Old Cedar and 73rd. I live right by the whole Old Cedar strip. I spoke last time, or I'm not sure if it was last time. Anyway, I hope I'm speaking about the right thing still. I just want to, I just want to say that I also work in social services. I work for Hennepin County in social service. I work with a lot of people who access housing through the county and so forth. This is the amount. My point is going to be the, hopefully you stick to what you had planned, rejecting this proposal. I heard the attorney here saying basically, we want what we want when we want it, or we're going to do, or we're going to just change everything, or he's just not getting what he wants, so he wants to drag it on. I think the people have spoken. I'm just pleading that you're still here. What the people of Richfield are requesting. But the one point I want to make is that the 70 units is absolutely, positively, intensely wrong. I think it's wrong for families. I think it's wrong for children. I think it's wrong for singles. That amount of complexes, when you're talking about people with some intense problems. Okay, I've discussed this with social services even down in Hennepin County, and who are very proactive in helping people. But the intensity of that amount of complexes with people who have intense issues at this time makes for an extremely intense, volatile, opportunities for explosion, including with the children that are around in those areas. It's way too many. I also remember somebody saying last time that there wasn't even going to be enough room for snow removal. And so then if you have car problems and just issues, and again, I live over by Cedar, there's many problems. There's just problems. And that's just the reality. Good, bad, or indifferent. And anyway, it's way too volatile. It's an explosion waiting to happen. It's dangerous. Besides, and I could really go on, but I'll just leave it at that. This is way too intense. So that's the one thing. I hope you stick to your rejection of the plan. And I just want to say one more thing. Someone spoke of Golden Valley and St. Louis Park and how they've upscaled. And I certainly, when I saw the changes happening in Richfield, I certainly thought that that's the direction that Richfield was going to go as well. And I really hope you do, because I think it'd be a service to all. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Commissioners, thank you very much. My name is Luke Bonowitz. I reside at 7615 Garfield Avenue South, number 5. It's a Castile Place townhome. And I just have to say, I really want to get some things out on the table about the financing behind this. My mind reels with so many things that have just come about over the course of time that we've gone through this process, and even more so tonight about my ignorance about what HRA can do for homeowners in this city. Everything for me stems back to 11 years ago. I had a conversation with the gentleman in the room, Ron Clark, on the telephone when I was trying to close on my townhouse. I had no place to live because I had moved out of my apartment, ready to move into my townhome at Castile. And forgive me if this sounds a little odd, but it's what reels back in my mind. where I was not going to be able to close on that townhome because he would not provide me the keys because there was one tiny little detail in that closure. Hence, 11 years later, it did close, but the issue that I brought up, one of the first meetings that I attended, was the fact that the townhome owners had to pick up a $150,000 construction loan that we are paying 6.8% on to fix construction flaws that were not addressed by Ron Clark when he came in. So now what bothers me is, as I hear this piece on this land valuation, the valuation that the value that he's offering to propose to pay, and that we would give that freedom to him, knowing full well that the project over at 7615 Garfield, or the 7600 block of Garfield, has had to shell out a lot of their own dollars above and beyond the purchase of the group, or the townhomes. My fear is that we might experience the same type of situations if we let this project go through. And right now, it seems to be that there's this shoehorn effort to allow things to drag on over time. And that just concerns me, that we are diluting out our hard-earned efforts, our hard-earned work and thoughts behind the project, and what it means to the city of Richfield, what it means to the future and the prosperity of the city. One thing I'd like to conclude with is that the last discussion was that it's good to have 2 and 3 bedroom apartments, because then people will want to move into Richfield. I've seen at least 6 homeowners leave Castile Place with 2 and 3 bed townhomes to go to other communities and live. That doesn't seem to jive with the idea that this project of bringing in more high density into the area is going to bring people to Richfield to live here and be a part of the community. It just doesn't coincide. And furthermore, if we look at the property that was just previously discussed with Candlewood, these things go together, where we can bring in economic development that actually sustains and grows Richfield, brings people into a working environment so they're surrounded by it, and then say, I have a job here in Richfield. Now I want to live here. Not I have a house in Richfield and I work out in some other district. So again, with regard to the proposal, I guess I'm asking that the commissioners stay focused on the side of what the council has recommended and reject this offer.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
My name is Camilo DeSantis, 6508 Newton Avenue South. These meetings are so fluid at this point, I'm not quite sure what we should be addressing or what we should be saying, but I'll say what I think I ought to be saying. At the last city council meeting, it was announced that one of the reasons why C1 and 2 were denied for sale because the city lacks a formal housing policy. And I guess my question in relation to that is, did we have a formal housing policy when we approved Lindale Plaza? I don't think so. Another council person, said he reviewed documents for Pillsbury Commons that showed people of color and single heads of household would be targeted as tenants. Assuming that he reviewed the entire document, he did not note that the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination. It is not a requirement or mandate that the Pillsbury Commons have all tenants who are minorities and or single parents, as the SOS group has implied over and over and over. And because the SOS group and others do not believe the Anti-Discrimination Act, they consistently label Pillsbury Commons as doomed to be segregated. So we are at ground zero. Pillsbury Commons is or will become a segregated community with those people, as I keep saying. You also had document or some material presented to you, and I'd like to quote one paragraph of that. And it says, "I believe that there are many reasons that the community and the city has rallied around opposing this project, not the least of which is that as low, medium income area, we have been hardest hit of all in this great recession. We are working harder and longer for less money, and for the first time since the 40s, it is unlikely that our children will do better than we have. On top of this, prices of everything have gone up while our property values have plummeted. The bottom line is this community, more than any other I know, needs a win. Our citizens need to be sent the message that government is what we make of it, and that government should still work for its citizens. We need a win, if for no other reason than that it gives us hope that we can still make a difference in our future." End of quote. So we're at the so in that regard, we need a win and we need hope, and I think we can identify with that particular paragraph. These are tough times for a lot of people, but the SOS price for a win is to deprive and deny other families, many with children, their opportunity to safe, clean, attractive, and affordable housing. SOSers are saying, it seems, we are having a tough time, which is true, so others should not have a chance for a better life. I found that plea very alarming. We are reducing this serious and important community activity to a game, a sports event, winner take all. Who knows how the Pillsbury Commons game pans out? Regardless of what happens, I and others feel we have fallen upon a social, economic, and cultural dilemma which does not bode well for our community. It doesn't sound like unity in the community. It is way beyond Pillsbury Commons. I say to our policy makers, how many wins are you prepared to make to the SOS group to make them happy? And then the need continues, and unaddressed, the need for 2- and 3-bedroom apartment units. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to address the HRA?
Hello. My name is Joe Hoover. I live at 7627 Harriet Avenue South. I'm a member of Richfield Commoners United, and one of the things I want to talk about is the amount of times, that we have posted, and I'm hoping that all of you on the HRA have had time to go to our websites, facebook.com/Minnesota. Facebook.com/Richfield, Minnesota, or PillsburyCommons.org, and look at the information there, because I'm only going to simply touch on the massive amount of information that we have brought up to talk about on this, all the stats, everything that we've done to prove our case. We argued on the social aspects, all right, and how this stigmatizes renters, that 100% income-restricted housing does, that this does not fit into a larger strategy for income-restricted housing in Richfield. In fact, indeed, the city doesn't have a larger strategy, and that it really needs to start developing before it tackles something like this. And that really, when you look at it, the need is in Ron Clark's hometown of Edina, all right? And one thing to remember, actually, hopefully if you've looked at, I just posted, the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency came out with a report, Community Profiles in Hennepin County, and it shows just that, all right? The other thing is, then we started arguing on economic, all right? And again, because again, that's what really it is, nuts and bolts, bread and butter, economics. And, showed that if you, between the amount of financing that was going on with the city and the discounts on the property and the lurk, you could let this property sit fallow for 15 years and build on it, and you would still do better tax-wise than letting Ron Clark develop it with what he wants to develop it. All right. One of the things that that really bothers me is that fighting all this is simply a waste of city time and taxpayer money, all right, that this is going on. That we've seen this, and what outrages me, this is a cookie cutter approach. This is no effort by Ron Clark, all right. You go to Savage, go to Village Commons, it's the exact same approach. There is really no effort to even look at the community surrounding it. It is simply just taking something and drop. This guy's a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to affordable housing or income-restricted housing. This guy developed high-end luxury housing. There's no guarantee that he'll be here in the future after the economy approves continually to develop this. All right? He has not listened to the community. I don't care what he says. He has, as is said before, he has selective hearing. What we have been saying is 80-20, 80-20, 80-20. All right, 80% market rate, 20% income restricted. All right, but the thing is, unfortunately, Ron Clark Construction, or Ron Clark himself, is unwilling to give up the low-income housing tax credits that make up this project. If he dumps those and starts looking for new financing, that might have been something different. All right, but he didn't. He chose to continue on with this. And I kind of am thinking of Steve Combs' last comment. If you don't come up with a third proposal that's significantly different, that's it. And I frankly think this is it. He has not dumped his low-income housing tax credits. He's still going 100% income restricted. All right? There is no change at all. No matter how much he's scattered around the sites or how much he's trying to do, this continues to go on. I think it's a mistake. All right, this is something that you need to end, and you need to end it tonight.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Steph Miller, 6804 James Avenue. I work in marketing and advertising, and one of the things that come up when there's a campaign that's going to unfold is what's the strategy behind it? What do you want to do? Who do you want to reach, et cetera? And I think, and I've brought this up before, I think this is one of those things, just like in marketing and advertising, sometimes an ad starts getting produced because somebody likes an idea or it's solving for a small part of a bigger picture, and the right minds hadn't been brought together, or the whole picture hadn't been revealed yet. Guest insights haven't been inputted, or the merchants haven't come to them and said, this product is doing better than we expected, or what have you. And as the bigger picture gets built, sometimes that ad becomes something that is now not answering those questions. And so I keep coming back to, what is the strategy? What is the strategy of the city? What's the city's brand? Where do we want to go? And just like in marketing and advertising, sometimes you have to call back that ad, even though that there's been money and time and heart invested in it, and then and you got to call it back and redo it in the bigger picture against a better strategy. And I think this is one of those instances where I think rejecting this and not tabling it and allowing some time and some energy and some mind thought to go around all of this, who's to say you guys can't come back with something that does meet it, and we can all be happy, a year from now they've got a project that's working and it fits within the community. But I think right now it's one of those times where we got to just let the dust settle and then move forward and then come back and say, okay, here it is, here's the strategy, and then let's march to those orders. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? We've heard from Mr. Susek. Does anyone? Do we want to allow another?
If only if we allow everybody else to do it as well. No. 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 Close.
We've been watching it.
Yes.
We've been watching
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
I'm inclined to let the developer just because they've had time and money and effort involved in this, but it's up to the group.
Madam Chair, I'd oppose it.
I'd oppose it.
Because I feel we should have a motion and have our own discussions after the hearing is completed, and we've heard from the developer a great many times.
I'm a little disappointed with the disparaging remarks. Without regard to the merit of the project, developers in Richfield want good things happen here. And that's going to happen in the private sector by developers, and I don't think we should begrudge them the fact that, you know, they're going to maybe make money at something, because this is a free enterprise system where people are incentivized by making money, but only my opinion.
Okay. Doris, are you willing to hear him or not? All right. Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Susing.
I just want to be clear, as I understand your bylaws, the applicant is supposed to be allowed to speak prior to the public hearing.
I'm not sure
Does
that's the
that-
case.
No.
Was this even a public
No.
hearing?
Yeah, it was.
That's a
Yeah.
public hearing.
Yeah.
No.
I traditionally have done it that way. I did not do it that way this time. I can let you be heard, but then I'm going to get overruled. So,
Well, I'm just asking for the due process we're afforded under your own bylaws. That's all I'm asking. We should have been.
Madam Chair.
I'm going to check over here. Do we have?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I don't have a copy of the bylaws, so I cannot opine as to the validity of what Mr. Suzak has to say.
Madam Chair, does Mr. Susag have a copy of the bylaws?
I don't, but I looked them up, and just as the planning commission says, the applicant is supposed to be allowed to speak, and then the public hearing is open. Tonight it was open, and then we're allowed to speak.
I'm going to go ahead and allow you another 3 minutes. I think that's appropriate, and then we will see if anyone else wishes to speak.
And by the way, I have absolutely nothing against anyone else having additional time. In fact, I think the discussion is healthy. Just very briefly, on the 80-20 that Mr. Hoover brought up, the City Council issued a resolution June of 2011, a year ago, saying 70 units, 100% affordable on this site. It was a 5-0 resolution. So it said 100% affordable at 60% of median income. That's exactly what we brought to the table. So there can't be any surprise that that's what the applicant seeks. In terms of this cookie cutter and this Johnny-come-lately and that we're not listening, we've changed the site plan considerably based on neighborhood input. We've held neighborhood meetings. And to be clear, we've never had an application other than the one in April of 2012 and then this second one. There was discussion about other plans, but never any other applications. Third, in terms of the land value that the gentleman raised in terms of the, as I understand the HRA, we're offering to purchase the property at the appraised value, which is no different than the 4 single-family lots that we heard at the last meeting. It's exactly the same. The land has been appraised not once, but twice at that value. And in terms of the closing story that we heard, there's strict closing guidelines. I can't speak to his specific situation. I can speak to the construction defects that have been alleged at Castile Place, which have not been attributed to Ron Clark by the Greater Management Company, and we have documented that to the Planning Commission that there's nothing there in terms of Ron Clark. Finally, this body entered into a development agreement that covered all the land back in May of 2011, followed by the option agreement, followed by the city resolution I just mentioned. And it requires best efforts. We do not think it's best efforts to deny this tonight when we have a pending application for reconsideration before the council. There's no harm in tabling this tonight and allowing that process to follow through and see what happens rather than rejecting it outright tonight. There's no harm in doing that. And so for that reason, for the reason of the written document, we're asking that that be done. And that's paragraph 3 on page 3 of the preliminary agreement from May of 2011.
Thank you. Mr. Adevich?
Well, if the public hearing is over, I'd make a comment. If the public hearing...
It's not.
It's not. Yep.
It's...
Yes?
I just wanted to restate This isn't about 70 families. This isn't even about development.
Would you state your name again?
Gislin Ball, 7627 Harriet Avenue
Thank
South.
you.
This isn't about development. This isn't about 70 families. This isn't about turning developers away or creating a hostile environment for developers. This is about a very bad project. It's about a million MHFA credits, and I mean a huge amount of money that we're not going to see in our community. So tabling it at this time is not just saying, oh, well, let's wait and see what happens. This is a Hail Mary for these guys. You guys turn it down tonight, they're done. We're still getting sued, I'm sure of that. But it's not, I mean, this is a Hail Mary. You're giving them leeway. You're giving them inches that they can try and turn into a win for them. Because once again, it's not about families, it's not about development, it's about 1 million MHFA credits. Thanks.
Hi, Holly Hanson, 7609 Harriet Avenue. Last week at City Council meeting, I showed this diagram. And should you choose to continue, I hope you don't. I hope you table this. Can you show the diagram, please, on the big screen? At any rate, you can look this up in Wikipedia. Wikipedia, you can Google it. What Wikipedia is it's a library of a bunch of people putting in a bunch of information. And when you look up TIF financing, this comes up. And throughout the article, it says at the very beginning of the article that, you know what, this article is biased for TIF housing, it's biased against TIF housing, and at the very top of the article it says go to the talk portion where people come and talk about the article and about TIF financing, okay? And what they all agree on is that this diagram discusses and depicts what happens with TIF financing. It tells us, for those of you that have difficulty, because I have difficulty, so I'm just going to explain it to myself if you don't mind. This is a 30-year graph. Cost of basic services continue to grow, as they always will, just like inflation. Once we have TIF on a piece of property, it freezes the revenue for that basic service, and the rest of us get to make that up. Now, there's 14 houses on my block. This developer wants to put in 70 houses or households on a block or half a block, whichever he decides to buy. That's a lot of red ink that we won't see. Look it up. It's all yours.
Thank you.
Wendy Hollins, home is on 7245 17th Avenue South. Mr. Gepner, I may have misunderstood, but I hope that you aren't hearing that this is against making money, developers making money, because that's not what I hear this about at all. We're talking about maybe some different developments or different design of development, but not against developers making money. I'm all for people making money. Anyway, but not on the backs of, well, I'll skip that. Anyway, the Ron Clark, it seems to me if he were listening to the residents of Richfield, this would look different. We would be having a different experience. We would not be having the experience we're having right now. What's happening here, if he were listening. I'd also just love, out of curiosity, to say that I'm going to look up the bylaws just to make sure that this was the case, but I know I won't get to that. Just out of curiosity. Anyway, this would not look the way it is if Ron Clark were actually listening to what the residents say. Please hear what we're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That's all going. Joe Hoover, 7627 Harriet Avenue South. Okay, let's see where to begin. A couple things is I'm not against, I mean, there seems to be this, like if you're against Ron Clark, you're against business, against developers. And I know, Commissioner Gepner, you went through a lot of problems with your neighbors doing a development, and I really want you to look at your experience and take this differently, okay? Because, not every development, not every developer has a good proposal. There are some bad ones, all right? And part of that issue is you have to really communicate with your neighbors, all right? Something that has not gone on with Ron Clark Construction. The other thing is, if, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I hope, Jim Susag, you can, but from what I've understood, and we'll post this up as we find out more on our website, but from what I understand, Jim, it sounds like Jim Susag had actually defended the neighborhood group, worked with the neighborhood group against Village Commons and Savage, and now he's working with Ron Clark with Pillsbury Commons and Richfield. So what was bad about the Village Commons to fight that, and good to work for Ron Clark here? Pardon? Well,
no comments.
No comments. No, please, no comments.
You're using this time.
And please, Jim, correct me, and you please have him come up here if I am wrong. But from what we've heard, and this is one thing as we confirm, we'll post more of it on our site.
I am going to be strict on time second time around. Thank you. Anyone else?
Commissioners, thank you for letting me come back to the table. Luke Bonowitz, 7615 Garfield Avenue South, number 5 in Castile. The reason I came back up was I'm very concerned to hear that the Ron Clark attorney would come back and challenge the fact that we found that there were specifically problems with the construction, that there was not R8 insulation in the attics. All of the insulation had to be pulled out. Sealing of every vent or light fixture in the attic had to be redone in order to prevent heat from escaping from all of the homes to cause the ice dams that were a problem. This year, there were not problems. But I still want to turn back. It's unfortunate that he brought that up because now it's a trust issue. Was it Ron Clark? No, the attorney says it wasn't them. There was nothing found. Now I have to wonder, was it our management company that has come and said, we need this construction project because we helped find the people to bring it together? They're shoehorning this off now onto somebody else. I don't want to see that happen if this project comes to fruition over on the parcels that are suggested. One last thing I would like to bring up is when Castile was put up, 40 townhomes went in. I don't know what the tax base is going to be with this apartment complex that they're proposing, but you're looking at between $2,000 and $2,800 per home at Castile replaced 7 homes that were maybe around $2,000 in property tax revenue. I think the better choice is to sit this out, develop this property for better homes, better prosperity for Richfield on a small segment of property that once it's gone, it's gone. Let's make the right choice for better homes and better economic viability for Richfield. Again, Commissioners, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Dawn Christian, 7109 Stevens Avenue. When I left to come to this meeting, forgive me because I don't do public speaking, but when I left to come to this meeting, my husband had said, "You don't use my name, but you tell them." I said, "Oh my God, your father again." But he works for a property management company and maintenance. And I can't tell you how many times in the last 5 years when they get a call and they're going, "It's a Ron Clark property, the money's coming in now." Because the repair starts this big and gets this big because of the quality of the construction. it does not sound like a good thing for Richfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak?
Madam, I'd make a motion to close a public hearing.
We do have one more coming.
Okay, one.
No.
Steph Miller, 6804 James. Just two things. One is I guess I want to back up the sentiment of, I don't think anybody's here to deny anybody the ability to make money or the financing portion of it. It's just how it's being put together. I think that's the issue. I also think it's the wrong project on the wrong piece of property with no strategy behind it. But as I was listening to you talk, I also realized that whether or not there are issues with other pieces of property, that I don't know. I can't speak to it. I don't know. I haven't done any of the research. But I did think if there are issues, we're talking about highly compromised base of individuals. Are they going to have any recourse? Do they have to come to the city to have the recourse if there is an issue? So I'm just saying that, again, that was just a whole nother layer I didn't even think about. And again, I don't know about previous properties, but I'm just saying if there is an issue, whether it's Ron Clark or somebody else, do we want to get into the business of 100%, subsidized housing, because we're always going to be battling somebody else's fight. So that's it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I think the motion is in order to close the public hearing.
I'll reiterate my motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I will entertain a motion at this point, and then we can talk about it.
Madam Chair, I'll move to reject the purchase agreement for the sale of Housing and Redevelopment Authority property located at 211 West 76th Street to Richfield Properties 1 Limited Partnership.
Is there a second? Okay, so we have it in front of us to reject the purchase agreement. Discussion.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
I have a couple of points I'd like to make, and if you'll bear with me, I'd like them to be on the record. I think the thing that we have before us right now is to make a legislative judgment based on what kind of policy we want to decide about this project. Ron Clark, his attorney, has said that we don't have a policy, or we do have a policy. We had a policy, he says, based on approving along the way his opportunity to continue to present this project and explore this project. We just have a March 21, 2011 meeting where we agreed to a preliminary agreement 4-1. And there was some disagreement at that meeting because we had a discussion about whether we had a housing policy and what we wanted to support in that policy. And Mr. Clark was there, and he heard us say that we had that discussion. And we followed up with that discussion by hiring a consultant to help us get the data that we need in order to have a better policy in the future. And we spent over $20,000 to do it, and he's very well aware that we were doing it simultaneously with his application. And he's even cited from it, so that they view it as a document that helps us formulate policy. And we initiated that because of the discussion we had while Mr. Clark was listening to us. Some of us thought it was okay to go ahead and let Mr. Clark go ahead and explore this and make proposals, even though we hadn't settled on our policy yet. And one of us thought we ought to wait. And I suspect that Mr. Clark is glad that one of us, or at the time was glad that one of us didn't succeed in persuading the rest of us, so that he could keep on going. He agreed to take the risk of making this proposal to us while he knew that our discussion of what our housing policy should be was ongoing, and that it was entirely possible that what policy we choose to follow might not be completely what he agrees with. What we need to do at this point is use our reasonable discretion, which is stated in our preliminary agreement, in which he acknowledged we have, in the terms of that agreement, to make a legislative judgment about what is good policy for Richfield today. And I want to just note a few things for the record that I think should be a part of and reflect the reasons why I'm not going to support this project. The Stantec report in Table 9A says that almost 70% of the rental units in this city are affordable to people at 50% of the area median income. That's more than any of the peer communities that were studied in that report. So we're already at the highest affordability level of any of those communities. The Richfield median household income for renters is the second lowest of any of the peer groups in the peer communities, and it's below the area median income, and that's from Stantec figure 35. We recently, sadly, saw an article in our paper that said that our elementary schools now in accountability ratings have us in either the 5 or 10% lowest rating for schools. And our superintendent said, what we've done hasn't been as effective as we wanted. We may have to do something very different. And the principal, Jody Markworth, cites English language learners and children receiving free and reduced lunch as disadvantaged and a factor in the rating. And that's from the Sun Current, May 31. The rental market is also much stronger than I believe the applicant would ask us to believe. There was an article in the Star Tribune way back in 2011 citing Marcus and Millikamp, a study that said that the area around the Meridian crossings in Richfield is the potentially hot market for the future for apartments after 2010. And in the Star Tribune on 3/4/11, there was an article about the Bloomington apartments, which are described as upscale apartments, which approved 234 apartments at Penn and American Boulevard, which is very near. And now, in an article on May 13th, the Star Tribune cites studies, and developers say that the strongest rental housing market in at least 20 years exists. And in 2012, over 2,000 new metro units will be built, and there will be no increase in the vacancy rates. So, judging from this, I believe that we, in our reasonable discretion, could determine that it is not appropriate for us to become even more the low-income center of rental, not to continue to reduce the the community median income by putting 100% of lower median income renters into this community in one single project. It would be appropriate for us not to pile on to our schools who are dealing with a problem that already seems to be very challenging for them. And it would be appropriate for us to seek more than one source of private enterprise information to find out what's available for development on this site. With that, I'm going to oppose this project.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Go ahead.
Both of these discussions and the facts that have led to his decision not to support this. I support and second, and if only I had the eloquence to repeat what you have said, I would. But let me just put for the record that I completely am in agreement with Mr. Quam. My particular concerns are with the 100% income restricted housing. It has long been understood, both formally and informally in Richfield, that we do not do income restricted housing, particularly those that are receiving any kind of support from the city and the HRA. Even some of our most high-end developments, such as City Bella, have affordable units that are included in the housing development. We are an integrated community in Richfield, and integrating people means not putting 70 units of one income housing in one area. As a former Peace Corps volunteer from Latin America, I identify strongly with our Latino community in Richfield. And in fact, just yesterday, I volunteered to be a volunteer with the Latina Girl Scout troop that is centered at Richfield Intermediate School. I understand their challenges, and this is not the way that we in Richfield help them to reach their goals by segregating them. For this reason, and for all those reasons that Mr. Devich stated, I am not in support of this project.
Anyone else wish to speak?
I spoke at the city council meeting. My opinion still holds.
All right. I guess I just want to explain why I'm voting as I am. The Richfield City Council voted against this project by a 4-1 vote at the last council meeting, and it's pretty clear to me that this matter is not going to change with respect to the city council, and I don't see the point of selling to the developer additional parcels for a project that isn't going to go forward. So I will vote against selling the property. Anyone else? If not, I will call the question. All in favor of rejecting the purchase agreement, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, Mr. Devich.
Thank you, Chair Sandall, members of the HRA. Item number 7 is consideration of a contract for private development with Richfield Properties 1 Limited Partnership for the Pillsbury Commons development. Again, by way of background, the background is similar to the report that we just presented. I'll just briefly reiterate parts of it. Richfield Properties 1 Limited Partnership, which of course is Ron Clark Construction Design and Conley Development LLC, as proposed to acquire and redevelop the former north half of the Public Works garage site at 7641 Pleasant Avenue, along with the adjacent parcel at 211 West 76th Street, the former police and mortuary parcel, and an additional city-owned parcel at the corner of 76th Street and the railroad tracks. That proposed development includes a 70-unit affordable housing development, which includes 52 apartments and 18 units of townhomes. The HRA staff, legal counsel, and representatives of the developer and their legal counsel have cooperatively negotiated a proposed contract for an HRA consideration. Among the more notable provisions of the proposed contract and the TIF plan, which is attached, are minimum improvements include approximately 131,312 square foot family housing complex containing 70 units of affordable housing, 52-unit apartment, and 18 townhomes. Construction of the development must be substantially completed by December 31st, 2014. Due to the estimated cost of the acquisition and redevelopment, the developer has identified a need for public assistance, and the development requires purchase of HRA property located at 211 West 76th Street, which again is the former Gleason Mortuary parcel. At the June 12th, 2012 council meeting, the city council rejected the developer's offer to purchase 2 of the 3 city-owned parcels. and as a result, the developer lacks the necessary property to complete the housing development as currently contemplated in the contract for private development. Also, with the action that you just took, not selling the mortuary site, that further proceeds along that path. And so staff recommends denying approval of the contract for private development because the development that was contemplated in the contract is no longer feasible.
Okay. Someone wish to make a motion on this matter?
Madam, I'll make a motion. Deny approval of the attached contract for private development with Richfield Properties, 1 limited partnership.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, Mr. Devitt.
Thank you again, Chair Sandall, members of the HRA. Item number 8 is consideration of a resolution adopting a modification to the redevelopment plan for the Richfield redevelopment project area and adopting a tax increment financing plan for the 2012-1 Housing Tax Increment Financing District, or Pillsbury Commons. Again, the same background. We're dealing with the same project with the same components. And with that project, the developer has submitted a request for tax increment assistance for that development in an amount of $530,082. And on March 27, 2012, the City Council adopted a resolution calling for a public hearing regarding the establishment of a modification to the redevelopment plan for the Richfield redevelopment project area and the proposed establishment of the Pillsbury Commons Tax Increment Financing District relating to the proposed development. The following steps are the process for the establishment of the Pillsbury Commons TIF district. HRA's consideration of the proposed TIF plan, the Planning Commission's consideration that the proposed TIF plan is consistent with the comp plan, and the final step would be for the City Council to hold a public hearing for consideration of the TIF plan. The HRA's financial consultants, Ehlers and Associates, have drafted the attached modification to Richfield redevelopment plan for the establishment of the 2012-1 Housing TIF District. The cost of preparation of this document are borne by the developer. However, all work was directed by the HRA staff and in the best interest of the HRA. The document identifies the boundaries of the proposed TIF district, states the legal authority for establishment of the district, and makes findings associated with this proposed district, including a finding that this project would not occur, quote, but for the use of TIF. As drafted, that the TIF district includes the city-owned parcels and the HRA-owned parcel described above. Again, at the June 12th, 2012 meeting, the city rejected the developer's offer to buy the 2 of the 3 city-owned parcels. And again, just moments ago, you rejected the developer's proposal to buy the former Gleason mortuary site. They're all contemplated in the TIF plan. So staff recommends denying the modifications for the redevelopment plan and the TIF plan because the development contemplated in the TIF plan is no longer feasible.
Is there a motion?
I'll move that we deny approval of a modification to the redevelopment plan for the Richfield redevelopment project area and TIF financing for the 2012-1 Housing Tax Increments Financing District.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? For the reasons indicated earlier by Mr. Quam and by all of the people speaking against this, I would call for the question. All opposed, all approving the motion to deny approval of the modification plan, etc., say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, HRA discussion items. Anything to discuss?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I guess this is a good time to say that we probably should proceed on the Stantec study to make more concrete, obvious policies based on what we're learning from our facts on that study.
I would concur.
And I believe we directed staff at the study session for that. Exactly.
Yeah, staff is going to be doing that, and one of the first things we're going to be doing is kind of an inventory of our peer communities to find out what kind of housing policies that they have that might be of interest to us.
Thank you.
I'd like to add one thing. This has been a grueling experience for all of us, the community, the HRA, and staff. I'd like to thank the staff, both those who are present and those who are not present, for the work that you have done on keeping us fully informed on information that has come to you through all parties who have been concerned with this development. People, do not have access necessarily to all of our telephone numbers and email addresses, and that you have forwarded constantly things that came to you directly to be forwarded to us, and I appreciate you serving as the link between us and the community in this.
Okay, anyone else? Item 10, Executive Director's Report.
Chair Sandal, members of the HRA, I have no report this evening.
And then finally, Claims and Payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.